Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we've got a truly fascinating journey ahead of us. We're going to take a structured, objective deep dive into the profound teachings and writings of the Guy Xufeng, the founder of Life Genuine. Now, his 2011 text gives us this highly specific lens on human existence, our relationship with the divine, and honestly how we ought to navigate our daily lives. Whether you're already deeply familiar with Life Genuine or you're encountering these ideas for the very first time, this explainer is designed to break down the core framework of his worldview. We'll be exploring exactly how he balances this concept of absolute submission to a higher power with a surprisingly rigorous demand for human action and creativity. Let's dive in.
To really wrap our heads around this philosophy, we have to start right at the absolute center. Xufeng kicks things off with this incredibly stark declaration. Without you, I am but a wisp of smoke, nothing at all. What's absolutely vital to grasp here is this baseline of complete and utter humility. The text isn't just suggesting we have a casual relationship with the Creator, it establishes a dynamic of total reliance. Without this origin point, the individual is basically rendered non-existent, literally just a wisp of smoke. And this sets the stage for everything else we're about to look at. Every action, every moment of joy, and every boundary in a person's life is defined by this one ultimate relationship.
So that foundational dynamic brings us right to our first major section, the source of life and the origin of all things.
The basic idea here is that we, as humans, are not just isolated actors. We're entirely dependent on a singular divine origin. Xufeng builds this case by mapping human existence directly onto the undeniable laws of nature. Water has its source, right? Trees have their roots. These are just observable facts of the physical world. The text then takes that physical reality and parallels it with a spiritual one. People have their Lord. It's a beautifully simple yet super effective rhetorical structure. By aligning our spiritual dependence with, say, a tree's dependence on its roots, the text argues that finding your ultimate source isn't just a religious choice, it's a fundamental law of existence. Recognizing this source is, according to Xufeng, the only way you can truly taste the joy of living.
Building off of that origin, we transition into our second concept, joyful acceptance, and finding peace in the present moment.
So if the Creator is the source of literally everything, how are we supposed to react to our everyday circumstances? Well, the text pushes for this unquestioning acceptance, and it uses these vivid, almost poetic dichotomies to make its point. On one side, we've got a humble straw hut and coarse bread. On the other, a luxurious house and fine white buns. The core teaching here isn't necessarily that luxury is evil in and of itself, but that mourning its absence is a failure of acceptance. If the greatest creator hands you a straw hut, the practitioner shouldn't spend their days complaining about not having a mansion. The argument is that whatever comes from this ultimate source is inherently the best possible arrangement for you, and constantly questioning it just totally disrupts your inner peace.
And Xufeng actually expands this beyond just food and shelter into the realm of aesthetics. Let's say you're given a small brook. You don't sit around mourning the absence of a great river. If you're surrounded by simple foxtail flowers, you don't cry because you don't have grand peonies. The philosophy strongly urges finding profound, genuine contentment in exactly what is right in front of you. Whether you're in a desert or a lush forest, the goal is to just flow with whatever comes. Completely serene, never picky, and certainly never comparing your lot in life to someone else's.
Which brings us to a formal definition. Life Genuine considers the highest cultivation to be living by natural arrangement. It's about joyfully receiving all that is given without demand, preference, or attachment. The absolutely crucial point here is that any personal demand, any hyper-specific preference, or any stubborn attachment is actually viewed as something that saddens the Creator. True cultivation isn't necessarily about going through complex rituals. Instead, it's the rigorous daily mental discipline of being entirely at peace with your present reality, whatever it might look like.
But you might be asking, what happens when we fail to do this? Well, that takes us to Section 3, the danger of greed and the suffering of insatiable desire. If joyful acceptance is the highway to peace, then our human tendency to chase after excess, that's the fast track to ruin. Xufeng argues this point blank. To chase after excess is greed. Think about it. The Creator has already provided everything fundamentally needed for life on Earth. We have food, we have abilities, we have nature. To desire more than what's been naturally provided is diagnosed as an insatiable desire. And the text is super objective about the consequences here. It doesn't just sit back and say greed is morally wrong. It states, very practically, that it brings self-inflicted suffering. Chasing excess means you're no longer flowing with the natural arrangement, which means you're walking down a path that leads astray, and ultimately, it ends in sorrow.
Now, this raises a really crucial question, leading us to Section 4, the duty to create and labor as a mandate.
If you've been following along, you're probably thinking, wait, if I have to just accept everything exactly as it is, shouldn't I just sit back and do absolutely nothing? Xu Feng actually tackles this misconception head-on. Absolute acceptance is paired with a very strict mandate for continuous labor. According to the text, humans are explicitly born to generate 3 distinct types of wealth: soul wealth, spiritual wealth, and material wealth. The text firmly states that what we need must be earned through our own creation. You can't just sit on the couch waiting for divine gifts to drop into your lap. And you can't rely entirely on society to provide for you either. Acceptance of your circumstances is the baseline, for sure, but rigorous personal labor, that's the expectation.
In fact, Xu Feng points to the human body itself as undeniable proof of this mandate to work. The Creator gave us hands specifically to labor and create, eyes to appreciate the world, ears to listen, and a brain to think and comprehend. The text even touches on sexual organs for giving and enjoying, and all the diverse foods of the earth for us to delight in. Basically, the human body is viewed as this highly specialized toolkit provided by the Creator explicitly for active engagement with the world. You are meant to use these tools exhaustively to build up those 3 types of wealth we just talked about.
And he ties this human mandate right back into the natural rhythms of the earth. Honestly, this is one of the most energetic parts of the text. Just as hens lay eggs every single day, and roosters reliably crow at dawn, and fruit trees bear fruit year after year, humans are expected to labor continually. It's an inevitable, rhythmic cycle. The text frames human labor not as some heavy burden, but as our natural, intended function in the universe. Xu Feng argues that when you work diligently within this natural arrangement, you're basically ensuring a bright future where life just continually improves.
So where does all this rigorous submission and constant daily labor actually lead? That brings us to Section 5, the ultimate reward, the kingdom of heaven.
The final stakes here in Zefeng's framework are presented as a strict absolute binary. Following the Creator's will, which again means joyful acceptance and diligent creation, is viewed as life's supreme treasure. That is what leads to the kingdom of heaven. On the flip side, chasing excess and rebelling against your given circumstances results in abandonment and self-inflicted suffering. Basically, there's the natural path of peace and the unnatural path of sorrow.
We wrap up our analysis of the text with Xu Feng's closing exclamation. Greatest Creator, thank you. How wonderful it is to be alive. It's such a profoundly life-affirming conclusion, isn't it? After laying out this very strict framework of total submission, anti-materialism, and constant labor, the end result isn't exhaustion. It's this intense, overflowing gratitude. By stripping away the anxiety of constantly comparing ourselves to others and removing the heavy burden of insatiable desire, the text suggests that we're finally free to just experience the profound joy of existence.
As we close out this explainer, I want to leave you with a question to chew on. Regardless of your own personal spiritual beliefs, Xu Feng's writings really force us to confront our modern habits. Where do you draw the line between necessary creation, using your hands and brain to build a good life, and that insatiable desire for excess that, let's be honest, often just brings anxiety? Finding that sweet spot between joyful acceptance of what you have right now and the active duty to create for tomorrow, well, that's a challenge we are all navigating. I really hope this structured look into the philosophy of life Chanyan and the guide Xu Feng has given you some fascinating concepts to think about today. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep questioning and keep learning.